trying to do, or inwardly to oneself. And for Ben, as an interpersonalist, and I think he was militantly anti-relational for a reason that I'll mention, but he was interpersonal because he felt the impact of the interpersonal exchange, the experience on himself, and he worked in such a way where you would never mistake him not having an impact on you. It was sort of in your face before you had time to think of it. And what he thought about the relational movement was that it was somewhat more at a distance. After the patterns had already formed, you could then observe it, interpret it. Things fell into some kind of order. There was a narrative. When Darlene mentioned about how messy things actually are, when you worked with Ben, they were totally messy. Afterwards, he tried to clean things up and put things in order. But he was right in there, in the moment, with direct and immediate experience. His position on enactment was, I think, that you enacted things that you were more likely to if you're not that connected in the present, that you were more of an observer, somewhat passive, even if you're being unconsciously influenced, that you would dissociate an experience because you weren't willing to associate to it. In a sense, dissociation was a result of dissing your own associations. And if you diss something, it's not going to want to come around again. So Ben was right in the middle of the moment. He was the moment. And that was his view of the unconscious. That the unconscious flowed out from inside oneself. Like core self for him was not that you say who you are and you speak from that, but you let this stream come out from you. And Ben used to say that his inner life was like a waterfall that was always flowing. He had gushing internal resources. So he wasn't much into introjection, because for introjection, you have to have an empty space inside of you to pull something in from the outside. Ben was always full. In fact, he was spilling over. And anyone who's ever been involved with him knew that. You know, you had to sort of clean yourself up after an encounter because he would just pour out. So there was two sides to Ben. One was his very formalistic, abstract, abstruse writings, which were very difficult to penetrate. By the way, I would add one article to the list that Mark mentioned, which I think was his best theoretical article, where most of his major ideas were in there. Individuality and Identity, which I think was 1974, which was a brilliant article, extremely dense. Like, you'd be better off reading it for the 8th time before you read it for the first time, just to give yourself a head start. But I'll stop now.
We're caught me by surprise.
Thank you, Warren. That article was written in 1974. It's in Contemporary Psychoanalysis, Volume 10, Individuality and Identity. I'll just make one historical